It's time for football, and that means we're talking sports. Horse racing, greyhound racing, and sports betting with your host, Kip Keefer. Don't just watch the action. Get out to Birmingham Greyhound Racing and put a bet on it. Here are today's tips and strategies to help you get in the winning game. Now here's Kip Keefer.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome to Talking Sports on this Saturday morning. It's kind of the calm before the storm, just a couple of days until Christmas. And, of course, we're about a week away from the big playoff games. A little bit further down the road, the big bowl games on New Year's Day. It's the most wonderful time of the year, and it's even more wonderful here today on the show because we had her by phone a couple of weeks ago. Yes. Terre Quillian, my just fabulous co-hostess on a lot of our programmings here. One of the most, made such a huge splash in Birmingham when she was here before. She's back. It's great. Terre, welcome to Talking Sports. It is amazing to have you here.
Thank you, Kip. It really is sweet home, Alabama. And from the moment the plane landed, I'm so happy to be here.
And before the plane landed, the flight attendant said, "You're Terre from the radio."
Miss Terre.
Miss
Terre from the radio,
well,
yes.
And as all of you know who watch the show or listen to our programs, Terry's unofficial title, which I'm going to go ahead and make official, is First Lady of SEC football. So
what an awesome title. I mean, if I could pick anything I wanted to be in the world, First Lady of the SEC would probably be it.
So we're going to have a great time. Terry's is going to join me for today's show, and then we're actually going to be lucky enough to have her back again next Saturday as we preview the college football playoff. That's going to be really exciting times. I want to tell you that our sponsor, of course, is Birmingham Greyhound Racing, the action capital of the South. I used to say gates are open now. I don't have to say it anymore because the gates are always open, 24/7, 365. We never close. So much to do at the track now. Not only the great racing action live, the simulcast presentations from all over the country. We've got the exciting sports parlay contest where people can have a Vegas-style experience and take the great information we're going to give folks and parlay that into some big winnings. But also now machine gaming, the gaming floor is open. It's going to expand soon. It has already just taken the city by storm in terms of its popularity. If you haven't been out for an ultimate day of entertainment, make your plans now during the Christmas holidays. The track will actually be open on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. So if things wind down and everybody's looking for something to do, get on out. You can access the gaming floor and have a fantastic time. Terry, we talked about the college football playoff just being a week away now. Let's go to the final college football playoff rankings. Here they are. And looking at that, I know you always have a lot of really good opinions and instincts about how things are conducted. Just give me an overview of your opinion on this committee system and what the work they do. And is there anything on this list that stands out and kind of bugs you at the end of the day?
Well, there's something that doesn't really make sense to me. I'm trying to figure out in what world is Utah number 11 and ranked ahead of both Auburn and Alabama. Is there anyone in this country who really believes that Utah could beat either Auburn or Alabama? I don't think so. I mean, you look at it and it throws the whole thing into question. Like, how reliable can it be? I also look, and I got to know, if I was a War Eagle fan, it would just bug the heck out of me that Oregon is sitting there at number 6 when they opened their season losing to Auburn.
Auburn beat them, and they're 6 spots higher.
Beat them handily, and Auburn sits at number 12, and they sit at number 6.
And that's not their only loss. Oregon also lost a really shocking game as a double-digit favorite at Arizona State. So they have 2 losses. Now, Auburn has 3, but look at the Auburn losses. LSU, Georgia, Florida, all top 10 teams. You tell me that Oregon or Utah's resume is better than Auburn's. That's laughable.
And on top of that, Auburn beat Alabama. Sorry to say it, Tide friends, but Auburn beat Alabama. Doesn't that count in the calculus somewhere?
Oh, sure.
Again, I'm taking Auburn and Alabama over Oregon, Utah. You look at the numbers and it just doesn't really make sense. I'm taking Auburn, Alabama over Wisconsin, too. I can see several up there. Baylor. I can keep going.
Yeah, because Alabama would definitely be double-digit favorites over all those teams. And Auburn would be, in most cases, or at least 8 or 9 point favorites. So, yeah, Terry, see if you agree with this statement. To me, some previous committees have looked more at what's commonly referred to as the eye test. When I watch games, when I watch teams, I'm sure same for you, you gain impressions by watching the game, how efficiently the offenses are, how well the defenses play, the coaching. You get pictures in your mind of who the better team is, hence the eye test. I think this committee was more committed to the whole body of work concept. And I think it creates some unusual situations, particularly with our in-state teams, because, like you said, you cannot tell me that Alabama and Auburn should be ranked behind these other teams if you're basing on body of work.
Exactly. And they're not really looking at what will form the best matchups going forward then. That's what's disappointing, I think, for fans in the bowl season. Well,
I mean, there's certainly no argument the top three are the three dominant teams in the country. And again, we're gonna have the best preview on the playoffs on next week's show. So just pencil it in. Do not miss it next Saturday at 10:30, because Terry and I are going to break down both of those games, the Peach Bowl and the Fiesta Bowl, respectively. But looking on beyond the list, you're a Georgia graduate, and you make no pretense that you are a Georgia Bulldog top fan. Georgia still managed to stay in the 5 spot, which was kind of surprising to me. But if you look at the list, it's justified.
You know, and I've heard some folks that are whining about how could Georgia lose as badly as they lost to LSU and stay in the 5 spot. Who would be beating them out of the 5 spot? Again, you know, it's a team that had one regular season loss, albeit an ugly one, but one, and who had a loss to LSU in the championship game, but who beat Notre Dame, beat Florida, beat Auburn. So when you look at that, seriously, are you going to put a Yankee team ahead of them?
No way. We got to go to break. When we come back, a whole lot more. Stay with us. Welcome back, everybody. Talking Sports. Kip Keefer with you, along with the First Lady of the SEC football, Terre Quillian. We are having a blast, and we hope you are too. Terry, I didn't give you a chance to wish folks Merry Christmas and all, so let's go ahead and get that, because I know you want to talk to the people here that really enjoyed your work and still love you, and so go ahead and extend your season's greetings.
I just want to say Merry Christmas. I don't do season's greetings. Merry Christmas to everyone in Alabama.
Yeah,
happy to be here.
She's been working with the White House, and that's on the stump speech. It's Merry Christmas,
Merry Christmas
again, and that'll be the official policy here on Talking Sports. This segment is brought to you by Chemco. Terry, this company is like the Swiss Army knife of all companies. If you have any need whatsoever in your plant, your business, your offices, anything and everything from maintenance to housekeeping to remodeling, the Chemco guys, family-owned company, they are awesome. Give them a call. We are so proud to have them as a sponsor on the show. Chemco, your go-to guys for any need in business. Give them a call. The phone number right there on your screen. Okay, now we're going to have a fun segment. We are going to... Terry is already the First Lady of the SEC. Everybody has a court show. Everybody has a judge's show. Jerry Springer has a judge's show now. Judge Judy, Judge Jerry, you know. So we're going to do Judge Terry here.
Awesome. I love it.
And you've got a long background of legal folks in your family, so it's right up Terry's alley. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to be presenting, and this isn't going to be like district court. That's like Supreme Court stuff. I'm going to throw out a topic, and Terry's going to make a ruling. That's how we're going to go about this. So let's start with the first topic. We are involved right now in transfer mania in college football. We watched the Heisman Trophy ceremony on Saturday night from New York. Congratulations to Joe Burrow, winning it very deservedly. So the widest range, the biggest margin of victory of any Heisman Trophy winner ever, which is quite a statement. But in that particular event, you had Chase Young, the big defensive lineman, who had no chance to win, but was honored for his good work. But the three quarterbacks there, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, and Justin Fields, all wore different uniforms just last year. Burrow actually 2 years ago, because he'd been at LSU 2 straight years. But the point is, all three of these guys were told, you're not good enough to start at our school, and they immediately left. It would be the equivalent in the NFL, in my mind, of, you know, a guy on the Patriots, the backup quarterback, saying, well, you're not going to beat out Tom Brady. Well, I'm leaving right now and going to play for somebody else. what's your Honor? What is your ruling on this being a detrimental thing, or is this just the era we live in?
Well, Kip mentioned the NFL, and I think the thing that's dangerous that the folks at the NCAA that are running football need to take a really hard look at is, do you want to be the NFL? Do you want to be the NFL light? We've seen that this year NFL ratings are plunging from where they were in the past. And if what you do is make it so that the athletes don't really have an affiliation with the school, to me the danger is it starts feeling more like the JV team for the NFL. And we've seen what's happening to the NFL. I think you want to keep the pageantry, but also the association in college sports. And I think that's a big problem that's going on here.
I mean, look at another lesser example, but very impactful for folks in this state. In the Auburn LSU game, Joey Gatewood, the backup quarterback to Bo Nix, was actually literally running on the field for a series that had been planned for him to be a quarterback. Gus Malzahn grabbed him and pulled him back on national TV. He was embarrassed. He was humiliated. He was frustrated. He announced he's transferring. That was it. See ya. I'm gone.
The next day, I'm gone.
I mean,
I don't think it's good for college football at all.
No, not at all. And no disrespect to Joey Gatewood, I'm sure that was a frustrating experience, and nobody wants to sit on the bench if they feel like they're good enough. Look at Joe Burrow. He wasn't good enough to start at Ohio State, but now he's won the Heisman Trophy. Okay, we got to move on quick because we're spending too much time on that one. All right. Your Honor, you're Trevor Lawrence. You've already won at Clemson a national championship. Your team has won 29 games in a row. You have started quarterback 24 of those games. You're finishing your second year and may win another national championship, but you're required to come back next year and participate before you're eligible for the draft. If the draft was tomorrow and you were eligible, you would be the first pick right now in the NFL draft. Tell me, Trevor Lawrence, how do you justify playing next year? It doesn't make any sense, especially after what happened to Tua.
I can tell you right now, I'm not going to justify playing next year because I'm not going to play next year. There's no insurance policy in the world that can cover the downside of an injury, and especially there's always the possibility of having a career-ending injury. Also, if I've won the national championship and I'm playing in the national championship once again, what am I coming back for? Kip, part of what bothers me is when you hear the reason that there's this rule you have to be 3 years out of high school. Part of what I've heard folks explaining to me from the NFL is that this is because these young men's bodies aren't developed enough and they'll be taking a lot of hits in the NFL. Have you seen the hits that they're taking in college football? And it's so condescending. It's such an amazingly condescending thing. So it's one more case of where college football is not allowing young men to reap the rewards of their own success. So instead, Trevor Lawrence should come back to Clemson so Clemson can make millions of dollars on Trevor again next year. I think a young man should be able to make his own mind up about that.
Yeah, the risk of injury is so profound, especially, and believe me, they're paying attention to what happened to Tua. We got to go to a break again. We're going to carry over those topics and continue this discussion. Kip and Terry back on Talking Sports. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. Kip and Terry with you on Talking Sports. This segment brought to you by Crane Works. All kinds of construction going on in downtown Birmingham. You hadn't been here in a while, and you were just amazed.
Unbelievable.
Almost all of that heavy equipment, all of those giant cranes and equipment come from this great Birmingham company. Crane Works has been in business for many years. The Upton family does an amazing job, and they're not only local, these guys are nationwide and even global. Crane Works is just the go-to, and everybody knows them for the heavy equipment, but any kind of equipment need, Crane Works can fix you up. Give them a call. Great supporters, Terry, for many, many years on the sports scene here in Birmingham. They've sponsored a lot of coaches' segments, Gene Stallings, Pat Dye over the years, so great to have Crane Works on board. Proud to have them as a sponsor. Let's get our last two segments knocked out there. You were going to turn the tables, make me be the judge.
Yes, you're going to be Judge Kip.
At your service.
Okay, but Kip, what is the first question for you?
You know, my favorite, if you want to put it on me, is officiating and the stupid review system.
I know you have strong feelings. Get ready.
I do. I'm only going to be. I'm going to be quick about this. College football. Get a clue. The NFL. I don't like the system in either place, but at least in the NFL now, the on-field official communicates directly with headquarters. Why do we still have an ancient official in the booth at the stadium? So now we've got 3 levels of bureaucracy in college football. It's a big mess. I told you the story, and I'll tell the viewers here. My son, who graduated from Alabama, went to every game, a lot of road games as well. He said there's something wrong with football when the biggest crowd reaction in a game is not on a great play, a great run, a great tackle. The biggest reaction you get from the crowd is the announcement of what the penalty is on the play. The reaction, either pro or con, and there's something wrong with the game if that's if that's dominating the experience. Do you agree?
Well, I think what happens is it takes all the excitement out of the game. You want to cheer when the guy catches the ball in the corner of the end zone, but you really have to wait through an interminable review to make sure he really caught it. Yeah. It's really his. Something isn't wrong. So I think it takes a lot of the passion and the energy out of college football.
Great point.
The other thing I think it does is it just makes the games too long. 4-hour college games, that doesn't make sense.
It's terrible. All right, I'm putting the robe back on you here. For the final question on the judge segment, coaching changes in the SEC. We have Eli Drinkwitz. We have Sam Pittman, and we have Lane Kiffin. Your Honor, who made the biggest splash in coaching changes in the SEC?
Well, for better or worse, the person who's always going to make the biggest splash is going to be Lane Kiffin. But I have to tell you, I'm on the Lane train. I think Lane is a great fit for Ole Miss. That program needed to be energized. The program is not what it used to be. It has beautiful fans, gorgeous facilities, and let's be honest, anywhere that when they have the press conference announcing the coach, they're also selling half-price beers in the auditorium.
Great.
That's the right place for Lane.
And what about the airport experience? Tell the story about it. I think some folks might not realize that.
Yeah, this is great. So if you saw the footage of Lane in the private plane with the athletic director landing there in Oxford, and you see literally 1,000 people out there to greet him, here's how that happened. There was a booster who had his jet at that airport, and he had his own hangar. So what he did was he threw a party, and he invited 999 of his closest friends to come and welcome Lane Kiffin. So when he got off the plane, this was a surprise to him that he was going to be kissing babies.
Because he's flying into Oxford, Mississippi. It's just
late at night in the dark. Yes, and there it is. And I think that was an example of an Ole Miss party starting on the tarmac. And Kip, I think, was really interesting because when questioned about that landing, Lane had an interesting comment about it.
One of the best quotes of the year. Lane Kiffin said, "The tarmac experience at Ole Miss was certainly much different than the last tarmac experience he had involving his coaching career when he landed after USC had been defeated by Arizona State back in L.A., only to be greeted on the tarmac by athletic director Pat Hayden, who promptly fired him." So I guess he was lucky they let him fly back.
Yes.
But his quote was, "A much different tarmac experience than I had when I was at USC."
That was great.
It was really
great.
good
so
stuff.
We want to welcome Lane back to the SEC where he belongs.
I mean, Lane Kiffin creates energy and excitement. I know Ole Miss fans are excited. We're not trying to diminish Sam Pittman, who a Paul Feinbaum caller described as, it seemed like he's a funeral director more than a football coach, so that's not a really good sign. And Eli Drinkwitz may turn out
to be awesome.
He might turn out to be a great coach. What a job he did at Appalachian State, that program. All right, we got about a minute to go. Want to talk about Alabama and Auburn's bowl games. Of course, we'll talk about that in depth next week, because that's still a week from Wednesday on Christmas on January 1st. But it's amazing, Terry, how often Auburn beat Alabama this year. Auburn is ranked ahead of Alabama, and yet the bowl assignments, when the Citrus Bowl was picking their teams, they had Jim Harbaugh in Michigan. They didn't take the higher-ranked team who beat the other team. They took Nick Saban in Alabama. Auburn always seems to get the number 2 role no matter what.
Yeah, if I was an Auburn fan, I can understand a lot of Auburn fans were really disappointed by that. They felt like we're the premier team. I think the reality is they weren't picking a team, Kip. They weren't choosing the team of Alabama thinking that would be a better matchup with Michigan. It was all about the marketing. It's really about Nick Saban and the Nick Saban persona and the Alabama program versus Michigan. But I can understand, if I was an Auburn fan, I'd still be aggravated by
And
that
here's
today.
the worst thing of all, we'll wrap this up. Those games, the Outback Bowl with Auburn and Minnesota, the Citrus Bowl with Alabama and Michigan, on the exact same time. Everybody in the country is going to watch Alabama and Michigan. Nobody's going to watch the Tigers, and that's really sad. We got to go to break. We will be back for our final segment right after this. Final segment here on Talking Sports. The time flies by, does it not?
It does.
It's great. We are having a great time. Kip Keefer, Terre Quillian, if you're just tuning in, the First Lady of SEC Football is joining us, and we'll be back next week, which is exciting, when we talk about the college football playoff. That'll be happening next Saturday, the 28th. It's going to be a really exciting week leading up to that. This final segment is brought to you by M&M Electric. They are a local father-son company. Any residential business, any kind of need in the power area. Terry, I worry about when I plug in an extension, so I don't call M&M then, but they can, don't do it yourself, I guess is the message. Don't risk it. If you're hooking up your dryer or whatever, get M&M involved, and particularly for business and commercial needs. They are a great company, a family company, just like all of our operations here on Talking Sports. Great folks. Give them a call for any electrical need. Well, we've reached the final segment here. You got to talk about Lane Kiffin. Terry has been on Lane Kiffin's
for years
board, and a lot of Alabama fans will tell you that when they lost the national championship game a few years ago, remember Lane and Nick Saban had the falling out, and he didn't think Lane was focused enough on the task instead of going on to his next job at Florida Atlantic. A lot of Alabama fans attribute that as the reason they lost that game to Clemson.
Well, I think the problem is, whether he's a good coach or not, you would have been better having 50% of Lane Kiffin's attention than having 100% of Steve Sarkisian's, who was not prepared. He was stepping in cold, and so that clearly was a decision that didn't work. You just have to look at the results.
Isn't it funny how things work out? It's such a full circle deal. You had Ed Orgeron offering Lane Kiffin jobs when he got head coaching jobs. Lane Kiffin offering Ed Orgeron jobs, who he accepted one when Lane went to USC. The only reason Lane didn't go to work for Ed Orgeron at Ole Miss is because he got another gig right then. At 34 years old, he was named head coach of the Oakland Raiders, which was a pretty good gig. A pretty good departure. But the fact is, they've worked together for all this time. How ironic is it that Ed Orgeron fails miserably at Mississippi, but you have some insight of that experience kind of changed his whole approach of things.
Coach O talks about how it changed his approach. At the time, he felt like he was very, very hands-on, and that he also was very emotionally invested, practices, games, and that he was a very large presence, very hands-on and running everything himself. He said he took the time after that to step back and try to see, what can I do more effectively? How can I change my coaching style? So, Kip, I've heard some rumors that are really not accurate, where people are saying, hey, the reason Coach O is successful, it's really not O. It's his offensive coordinator, it's his defensive coordinator, and he's just there as a cheerleader. That is not true. This is intentional. This is the way Coach O set it up, so that he would have a strong OC, a strong DC, and that he could really play the role of head coach. So this is something that he's been working on for the past 10 years, just coming to fruition now.
So Lane Kiffin flames out at USC, gets fired on the tarmac. Ed Orgeron steps in as the interim coach and doesn't lose another game the rest of the year. USC doesn't use him, so he gets cast aside. He ends up at LSU, which was a pretty good deal, after failing at Ole Miss. And guess where Lane Kiffin now comes back full circle? Ole Miss.
To Ole
Isn't
Miss.
it amazing?
It's great.
It's an amazing thing. Hey, we've got a couple quick best bets. We'll just put them up on the screen. I'll have them on the website, too. These are bowl games being played today. The one of most interest, of course, is SEC Texas A&M. They are playing Oklahoma State. Terry, Jimbo Fisher really needs a win, but we're out of time. We are going to be back with you next Saturday, and we will bring you previews of the playoffs. Thank you so much, Terry.
Thank you.
See everybody next week.